The transition to go from a renter to homeowner, it's not an easy one, but it might be a little bit easier if you can stay where you are. And that's assuming that you love the place that you're living in, right? And if you do, there's a new Maryland law that's helping renters do just that. Real estate attorney Andrew Schwartz is here with us to try to explain. This is a new law. It just went into effect October 1st in Maryland. I don't think it got a lot of attention out there. So in a nutshell, what does it do?
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So what it does is requires landlords prior to listing their property for sale to notify the tenants that they have an option to purchase the property, and they have 30 days to submit an offer.
So the tenant at this point has the first move, right? So they could just put whatever offer they want out there if they want to buy the property that they're currently living in.
Well, sorry about that. It's got to be consistent with the notice terms that the landlord provides. So
Okay.
material terms of purchase price, settlement date, and whether there's any contingencies.
Okay, so then they work it out and they have 30 days for the tenant to make an offer, a financial offer on that property. And then what happens after that?
If the tenant's terms match the landlord's notice, then the landlord's required to accept it. If it's different terms, then the landlord has 5 days to make a counteroffer.
Okay, so pretty quick process then at that point. So for that tenant that's living there in that in the apartment, and we're showing apartment buildings here, but this is for kind of individual properties, right? Smaller properties.
Yes, it applies to 1, 2, or 3 unit dwelling residential properties, and the tenant has to have lived at the property for at least 6 months and be named on the lease in order to exercise their option to purchase.
If they want to be able to buy the house. So essentially the tenant gets the first crack at this, right? If tenant passes on the initial offer or the landlord doesn't accept that initial offer, is there any protection for the tenant then until it's sold, or if nobody wants to buy it in the meantime, what happens?
Right, so if a deal cannot be reached, the tenant can remain in the premises until it's actually sold. So the purpose here is to avoid quick displacement of tenants.
Yeah, which I've been a part of in the past. I think others have as well. So what about for the landlords in this case? What changes are there that the landlords need to know about if somebody is renting a property?
Yeah, so what we're hearing from a lot of our clients at Stein Sperling is that the landlords have to follow this time and procedural notice. So historically, sometimes landlords are able to enter into quick close transactions, but now they're going to have to follow this 30-day period and a potential 5-day negotiation period before they can take action and list the property.
So big picture, what do you think this does for, for both the landlords and the tenants and for real estate in Maryland?
Well, I think the goal for the state of Maryland is to promote housing stability and not evict tenants so quickly. From the landlord standpoint, they're going to have to slow down the process. Potentially, it creates more favorable landlord-tenant relationships. But we'll ultimately have to see what happens, whether tenants actually take the exercise, the option to buy with the interest rates dropping.
Yeah, and you mentioned the evictions, and I guess that's really what it comes down to, right? Is this, you don't get that notice from the landlord that just says, I'm selling the place, you got to go.
Yeah, so if a landlord violates this provision and does not give the requisite notice to tenants prior to selling, there's violations that could face a $1,000 per violation penalty.
Wow. And this is for the whole state of Maryland, not just here in the D.C. region. Do other states do this? Is this something unique to Maryland?
So you're correct. This is for the state of Maryland. I know the District of Columbia has a similar TOPA law, Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, which has slightly nuance, but more and more states are enacting similar laws.
I know you can't speak for every tenant in the state of Maryland, but do you think that people will take advantage of it? Because a lot of people rent because they can't afford at the time to buy, right? It's a lot of times it's either a stopgap or it's like this fits my income level better to rent than to buy.
Yeah, it certainly gives the opportunity for tenants to at least have that discussion with the landlord, potentially before the house hits the market, to have a discussion about the terms, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's all great information, and it's good to know, and we encourage you to look into a little bit more. If you're a landlord, you have to look into it. If you're a tenant, learn at least so that you have that first option to buy the place that you're currently living in. Real estate attorney Andrew Schwartz, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.